Blog Talk Radio.
From Winston-Salem, it's Sunday Night Dead.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November 4th edition of Sunday Night Dead. I am Matthew Slozer from Automoon Paranormal here in beautiful Winston-Salem, North Carolina, except I'm not in Winston-Salem tonight. I am actually calling in from and broadcasting from Fort Wilderness in Orlando, Florida, camping with the family. We do this almost every year, and it's one of our favorite places to come to. And have a great show lined up tonight. We're going to tie in to some degree the whole camping and paranormal topics tonight, as well as the big news story from last week, the Frankenstorm. So I'm going to kick this right off and say anyone out there that had any storm stories or any experiences that they would like to share with the rest of us that do not live in that part of the country and have not personally experienced what is going on, please feel free to give us a call in. The number is 646-929-2384. I'm originally from that area, so I still have friends and family members that are just getting their power restored, but they were far enough inland that they weren't having as major damage as obviously the people out on the coast. I would also like to bring on tonight co-host and helping me out, and it is always great to have him on the show, from Ghost Cowboys in Fort Worth, Texas, Mr. Mike Bowler. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Matt. Glad to be a part of the show this evening. Always fun to come on with you.
And like we were talking about earlier before the show started, you had a very good football day. I was glad to see your Steelers knock off the Giants tonight. That helps my Eagles a little bit, although my question is going to be, and I'm away from any TV here, and I don't have the game logged up internet-wise, so if anyone would be kind enough, if there's any significant updates in the Eagles-Saints game tonight, fill me in on that. But I'm curious as to what lasts longer tonight, Sunday Night Dead or Michael Vick as QB of the Eagles. So
I can help you out there real quick. That game is actually tomorrow night, Matt. Being all the investigations you've been on, you've got your schedule fixed up a little bit. We've got the Dallas Cowboys, who is the local team here. That's why I'm a much-hated Steeler Nation guy here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is where I reside. Here in Cowboy Country, are playing the undefeated Atlanta Falcons tonight. So the Eagles and Saints, that game will be tomorrow night.
All right, well, that's good to see. This is what happens. I don't know if this happens to anybody else, but when I go on vacation, my whole schedule thing gets all screwed up as to which day it is and what's going on. So, well, on that one, I hope the Falcons remain undefeated on that, because I kind of have a pecking order in the teams I root for, and that is obviously I'm an Eagles fan first, then second is whoever plays Dallas I root for, and then third would actually be the Steelers. So anyway, an interesting show tonight. So we have some members of this group. Mike, I want to fill you in a little bit on this. It's kind of neat. The Fort Fiends, which is a group of actually nationwide campers that camp at Fort Wilderness here in Orlando. And my wife has been involved in this group and has talked to this group for quite some time. And it turns out through kind of her sharing information about me and what I do, turns out there's a number of people in this organization that are interested in the paranormal side of things. And so I wanted to give them, particularly since I'm down here, I got to meet some of them this week, wanted to give them the opportunity to call in and ask us any questions they may have, as well as telling us a little bit about their group, because what I'm learning is, and it's kind of interesting, is, you know, a lot of these individuals are interested in the paranormal, and they have campers, they travel around the country and camp on things. William and I have been talking about our team doing this kind of paracation in the summer, where we actually do kind of a road trip and hit multiple locations as we go ahead and do this. So there really is kind of this connection, and one that I wasn't aware of really until I started talking to people in this group, really an overlap between the whole camping and kind of road trip traveling and the paranormal. So I wanted to do this show tonight and kind of see what level of interest is out there. And so anyone, you know, I spoke to a number of the Fort Fiends earlier today. Any of the Fort Fiends people that would like to call in, talk a little bit about their group, and also ask any questions to Mike and myself or anyone else in the chat room, feel free to go ahead and do that. And I'll also put the invite out there as far as anything related to the big storm from last week. Any stories? I know John Coghill last week had a bunch of his family and I think friends over taking shelter in his house. So I hope everything was okay for them. And we have a number of listeners and a number of friends in that part of the country. And so, again, our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to all of you for a quick recovery. So that being said, hang on here. I think we have William on board from Winston-Salem. Autumn Moon Paranormal, Mr. William Howell.
Thank you. Mike, how are you guys doing?
How are things going on up there, William?
Going great, Matt. How's things down in Orlando?
It's nice. It's funny. You get to know your body adjusts to temperature pretty quick because it's obviously warmer than North Carolina here, but it was still a little bit of a shock with the humidity, which I have a hard time believing because I love heat and humidity, but still coming back into some 80-degree weather was a little bit of a shock. So
yeah, I guarantee it.
And I see John just posted that everyone is safe, so I'm glad to hear that, and they're getting to celebrate Halloween finally tomorrow night. So that's good to know.
Mike, you doing all right?
Doing fantastic, buddy. How about yourself?
Can't complain.
There you go.
I wanted to add,
on Matt's
Mike,
show.
and this is something else, too, if you guys can all check this out. I'm going to bring this up on a couple shows this month because we've had Gary Price involved in this as well. But William, we posted on the Sunday Night Dead page a picture that William's father took. I guess it's actually a couple months ago now, and it's got a very interesting story behind it, and we've had some of the paranormal people look into it as well, and we haven't come up with a good explanation for it, other than it's a very, very interesting picture. So anyone who wants to get on the Sunday Night Dead Facebook page right now, you can see it on there, as well as it's on my personal one, but I'll just kick this over to Mike quick and see, do you want to give us a little bit of background on that picture?
Going to it now. You talking to me, Matthew, or are you talking to William on this?
William, I'm sorry.
Okay.
William, the picture from the cemetery?
Okay. Well, a little bit of the background is the cemetery is here in town. We live right outside of Winston. It's called Mount Gurr Cemetery, and some of our relatives are buried there. So off and on, when my mother would go through there, there's a section in the cemetery that's new that she said she'd always like to be buried around, but that section hadn't been opened.
Hang on, William. One second. Is that is there some interference, or does somebody have sirens going on in the background or something?
I've got everything muted, and I got the Dallas game on the background, but...
Okay, maybe it was just me hearing it. It's not here. I was just there was a really weird interference. Okay, go ahead, man.
But anyway...
Sorry about that, anyone out there hearing.
That's all right. Section of the cemetery hadn't been open yet. So, my mom passed away back in January, and she is laid to rest in the same cemetery. But, my dad, like everybody, they go and visit on occasion, and he just happened to be driving around because you can access it from 3 different areas in around town there. And he was driving by, and he happened to look out toward that area and noticed what he thought was somebody standing out there with a sheet. And he thought it was kind of weird, and he just kept driving by. So he went on by, and he said, that's just too weird. So he turned around at one of the mausoleums there on the other end, came back, and it was still there. So he stopped the car, and because I was asking him, if he was driving by, which would cause the picture to be blurry, but he said he was parked. He stopped. And he said he snapped a photo on his cell phone, so he went back to take a look at the picture and see if he got it, and then when he looked back up, he said it was gone. Because that's, I was looking at it, are you driving by, is it blurry kind of thing? And he said no. He's gone back several times, when going over to visit my mother, and he's taken my sister and some of her friends, to check it out and see if they see it again, and he hadn't seen anything. And I've done the same myself, but I just can't explain it. I've taken my phone and cameras and tried to take the same picture and just shake the camera while taking a picture, and I can't copy the same blurriness in the way it's distorted. So, and my dad, he's around, I think he's 70 right now, and he doesn't own a computer or anything like that, so it's nothing that he's enhanced or changed or anything. So, for those people that may think that, somebody took it and manipulated the photo and stuff, that's straight off of his phone. So,
William, I got a couple of questions. I have not seen that photo. Went to the photo, and I typically, for anybody that's out there listening tonight, one of the things that I was taught years ago, which you can do simply with the Microsoft Office Picture Manager, your MacBooks have them too, is that I will obviously copy the picture to my file, increase it, and then increase the contrast, brightness, play with the saturation, colors and stuff. And one of the things I've found about insects and things like that is they will fade as you fade the brightness with the picture, that some of the more interesting orb-type pictures and apparition, supposed apparition pictures a lot of times tend to be brighter than the picture itself. You could almost completely take away the majority of the background and still have a faint outline of the supposed orb apparition or something like what we're looking at here. My question to you is that obviously if he saw something there, this looks large enough from what I've done that it's not an insect. It does typically show up like that, like an insect in a picture like this. If you're saying your dad saw that, if you guys can go back out to this cemetery, I would be very interested to hear the results of doing some EMF readings around that area.
Yeah, Matt and I have discussed this, and we plan on getting together, one afternoon. I'm going to go by and talk with the people that run the cemetery along with our police department and let them know that I would like to actually go out there late one evening and sit out there for a couple hours in that same location. I'm on the same boat with you as far as, it could be bird, insect, or something moving, but when he come up and told me that it looked like somebody was standing there with a sheet, I'm sure you could tell an animal or something like that, and he wouldn't have been taking the picture otherwise, but yeah, we do plan on doing that, and I'm actually going to hopefully post some of the other photos that I've taken, with an individual standing out there from that distance, compare it to me shaking the camera as well, and do some side-by-side comparison with that.
Yeah, we have. Fortunately, this is close enough. We can go back out there and do a bunch of kind of debunking things on this. But yeah, I see Tracy just posted in the chat room, and I couldn't find. I must have been looking on the wrong page of the one pic that Gary Price did, where he did a lot of enhancement, where you could almost see like a profile and like a collar and part of the robe on the picture. It's very odd, and I don't have a background in photography, so I'm always very, very hesitant to claim anything on this. I always kind of kick it out for other people's viewpoints on things, because I'm not very knowledgeable of some of the things that could happen with it, because I tend to do more audio than photography type things. But I was very interested to see how with the enhancements and things, this definitely has an odd story to it, and it's a odd picture, and so I can't wait to get out there, and we'll do a bunch of different angles and kind of having people out there standing in the same spot to try to get some feel for scale, and we'll also run audio at the same time, because you never know, you might pick up something interesting there, but it's not far from where we live at all.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So again, I'm seeing some of the Fort people are getting ready to call in soon, so this will be good. Also, any of the storm story things. So, Mike, do you have any friends or relatives or anything up in that area that were affected by the storm?
I actually have a lot of friends. I would not call them close friends, more acquaintances, but the one that comes to note is our own Nene Grace, who hosts the Tuesday night show, The Grace of Spirituality. Nene, who is about, as she said, about 45 minutes, I believe a little over 30 miles from the actual shore there in New Jersey, came on with us last Wednesday on Halloween. Did not have internet, but was able to call in and join the show as she normally does, which she's not going to be with Kool-Aid on a regular basis anymore. She has her own show with her schedule, but she normally was a part of our Wednesday night program. Said that, it really shook them up pretty good, that she lives in a 13-room house, a rather large house with her kids and a friend of hers who also has children. And at one point, the house was actually shaking. She said that she has a lot of neighbors and relatives out there that, one of the things that we talked about that I took to note was, in watching this, as much as I hate to admit it, I got sucked in a while back, and from time to time I would watch the MTV show Jersey Shore. I am Italian myself. A lot of my last name didn't show up because I was adopted. But just, kind of watching that up there. But if you've watched the Jersey Shore, you've seen where the kids have gone down to the Ferris wheel, the amusement park and stuff, which is Seaside Heights. And some of the pictures, and Nene had said the same thing, that it was total devastation. They're just going to have to basically, it looks like, bulldoze that down and start over. The boardwalk, many of the stores were not salvageable that were on there, the T-shirt shop, Ferris wheel and everything through there. So, you know, one of the things that came to mind as we talked about it, that they can rebuild that, but there's so many memories. There's so much age and history, which is something that's very important to us in the paranormal field, and it's also important to people that are not involved in it, that have just lived up there, that have had gone down there as children and want to take their children to some of the things that, you know, they vacation at or go down for a weekend with a family, that so much of that has gone down there now that I think is the big travesty with this storm. You know, we have a local park here, Six Flags Over Texas, that I was just recently at, and it has changed so much. Not that things don't change, but I just remembered as a child and the memories that I had there, that at least it's still here, that many people up there that grew up around all this area in the Jersey Shore and the amusement parks and things like that, as she said, most of it's now gone.
Wow. Yeah, that was Seaside. We used to go to Ocean City, was the main, or Wildwood would be the main places we would go to vacation, but we went to Seaside Heights the year after I graduated from high school, which was eons ago now, but we spent a week up at Seaside Heights, so I'm know that layout, and just can't imagine the devastation in that whole area, and certainly our hearts go out to everyone that has been impacted by that. Again, I know some friends that I'm seeing through Facebook are still just getting power on right now, so it's very interesting. I'm also going to throw out here, I'm seeing in the chat room that Chris from Fort Fiends is on the phone calling in, and I'm not seeing him on the board. So if he is having an issue, I don't know if Chris, if you're listening and can hear it, let us know in the chat, or you know, relay to me that because we are not seeing anything coming in the queue right now. So I don't know if the orbs are getting angry with us again or not. I've kind of been nice to the orbs lately, so I'm hoping they're being nicer to me. But we'll see what happens. So you never know what those orbs are going to do. So yeah, that guy. Anyway, so let's see, if Chris does not call in, I'm going to shift towards, well, the other thing I wanted to ask is, and there's some other camping people out in here too, is, you know, one of the things that goes hand in hand on the whole camping thing, and to be honest, I will do this with my kids just because I'm a mean dad, is the whole, you know, campfire and ghost stories. And you always tell lots of ghost stories about, I remember one of my friends told me this story, and again, this was just when we were younger, trying to freak people out about how he was hunting one day and ran into this lady in the woods and asked a bunch of questions of him, and then when he turned around, the lady was gone. And just, you know, goofy stories like that. And Mike, I saw, I didn't get a chance to really look at it yet, but I saw you had something posted about people that thought it was a black bear and then thought it was looked more like Bigfoot. So
yeah.
Don't know whether that was, I didn't get to play it, so I didn't know whether that was a real one or not. So I'm just kind of curious out there of any, well, yeah, I'll go ahead and kick it out. I'm just kind of curious about the whole kind of any odd experiences while being in the great outdoors. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to tell you real quick. I just happened to see that when I got in tonight and was setting up here in the studio to help you do the show. And what you got there, which I think a lot will agree with me, you have such a great group of listeners with your show, is that when we see these videos of Bigfoot, and I'm one of the biggest skeptics, if you've listened to me and George on Primetime Paranormal or Chris and myself on Wednesdays with Kool-Aid, I don't believe they exist. I'm one that says I think we'd have seen one. Somebody would have shot one. We'd have found, you know, the bones of one that had passed, something at this point. So I'm very skeptical on this, but I mean, I don't know like anybody else does. But the one thing I like about this video, the reaction of the people running the video camera is what you would expect. If, let's say, Matt, you and me had finally had a chance to meet up and went on an investigation, we're out in the field somewhere, doing a paranormal investigation thing, the last thing we're going to run across was a Bigfoot, and begin to see something move in the tree line towards us or something like that, and then realized how big it was, and then it was upright walking like it does in this. I think you and me at that point, you would hear a little bit of panic, and we would also be moving away from the animal at that point, and that's what they're doing in this video, which to me adds a bit of reality to it.
All right. Well, for all you folks out there too, I will flip over and share this as well, so you guys can check this out. What we have, I'm not sure if this is going to be Chris or not, but let's bring on. We have a caller. Area code 772. Who am I speaking with?
This is Chris.
Hey, Chris. Welcome to Dead Air.
Hey, thank you.
How you doing, Chris?
Doing well.
Chris is with, and let me make sure I get this correct, you are one of the people that originally created the Fort Fiends, correct?
Well, yes, in the sense that we started the site. But really what happened is the group kind of existed before we created the site. We were there was a lot of people who enjoyed camping at the fort, and they were on another discussion board, and for different reasons that nobody needs to get into, we found ourselves without a home, and so we needed a place where we could all stay in touch with each other and talk about the things that we like to talk about. And so we created the site, and it's just been an amazing experience so far. We've been going for about a year and a half now.
Oh, awesome! And you have, it's people. I know from just when I'm here, seeing the different signs and things. It's people from all over the country that belong, and I guess some people pretty regularly go just to Fort Wilderness in Orlando, but I'm assuming most people camp in a bunch of different areas. Is that correct?
Yeah, primarily we've met at the fort because it's such a great campground, as you know. As campgrounds go, it's really one of the best out there. But we've also we've had people meet at Stone Mountain. We've had people meet all over the country, at different places.
Yeah, I would say the one of the things that happened was my wife has been involved in this for several years, and we've been coming down to the fort since 2007, which is ironically right around the same time I started putting the investigating kind of in high gear as well. And we're at through getting in touch with some of the people on the Fort Fiends, I found people that were interested in the paranormal as well, like Melissa, who I know is there in the chat room, and Curtis, who I believe is out there in the chat room as well. And so started kind of communicating there, and that's when I started seeing this connection. I don't know how broad it is, but the whole idea between a lot of these paranormal sites and investigation locations are scattered all around the country, and some of the people that I've talked to that have been in the Fort Fiends have been to some of these. And so that whole combo of camping and the kind of historical investigation sites that, either if you're very well-versed in camping and have an interest in these historical locations, there can be kind of some networking and connections that can be made as far as where to stay, where to go that would be in close proximity to these places. But then the flip side, too, is some people out there that may really like to check out some of these locations, but feel they can't for various logistic reasons. This could be a way to learn a little bit more, and maybe camping. It's an economical way to be able to travel more around the country and check out some of these sites.
Well, yeah, you can come at it from two directions, right? One is that if you're already into paranormal investigation, it just makes sense to have an RV or a mobile base of operations that you can go to different places and have kind of that that hotel room that moves with you, for carrying gear and all that sort of thing. But also, if you're a camper and you're looking for somewhere to go, those are some really neat places to camp as well.
Absolutely, and one that comes to mind is I am pretty sure, and I apologize if I'm misspeaking on this one, but just kind of throwing it out there for everybody. Rolling Hills up in upstate New York, I believe there's a number of campground locations in very close proximity to that building, and that's still one of the ones at the very top of my bucket list, but I've heard very, very good things about that place. I know Trans-Allegheny, where I always talk about Trans-Allegheny, I believe it's the Stonewall Jackson Forest is right to the south of that. I believe there's campsites there. I believe when we were out at Waverly, there was a national forest very close to where Waverly is located. So, I mean, a lot of these places have, because at least when you're talking like the TB hospitals or the mental hospitals, you know, they didn't plunk those right down in the middle of the city. They put them kind of out far away because, one, you know, nobody wanted them in their backyard, and two, the whole kind of idea of just being kind of isolated with these patients as well. So, you know, a lot of cases, I believe, these locations will be near areas where it's good to camp. Melissa's in there just saying Gettysburg has a KOA nearby, which that's right. Melissa has a Gettysburg. I think she's got a Gettysburg story too. So definitely, Melissa has talked to me briefly about the Stanley and Gettysburg. So I'm curious to hear about her experiences on that as well. And I don't know if anyone can hear the music in the background, but we have the boat light parade that goes on every night here going on in the background. So if you hear some kind of odd music in the background, that's what that is. It's kind of like a sea dragon and octopus and stuff that light up that go across the lake out here. All right, well, so you know, anyone just kind of getting interested in this, or anyone who comes down into Disney that might not even be aware of Fort Wilderness or any of these things, is there anything you can tell us about this, Chris, and any kind of background on the fort and camping on the fort and some of the advantages of doing that?
Well, it's a really great way to visit Disney World, if that's your thing. You know, Fort Wilderness was one of the original resorts at Disney World, and I think they started with the Polynesian and the Contemporary hotels, and the campground, and that was it. There was no other. You know, they've got at least 20 or 30 hotels on property now. Not to mention what's, you know, in the area. There's so many hotel rooms there. It's crazy. But you know, that was one of the first places that they built was Fort Wilderness. And even to this day, it really kind of carries that, you know, it looks like a really natural space, which Disney's really good at when they have a mind to. You know, there's a lot of trees around, a lot of natural foliage, and a lot of natural wildlife as well. The strangest thing I've seen at Fort Wilderness, I was just heading around a couple of years ago. Over by the pool area, and it was night. It was kind of dark, and there was just sitting in the clearing right there, like they had been posed there, was a young deer and a little rabbit, just sitting right next to each other. I'm like, who put the Bambi display here? And I drove a little closer, and they ran off. I was like, oh, they weren't supposed to do that. I thought they were, you know, animatronic. But it was just the strangest thing. They were just standing there like they were having a conversation, and then, I interrupted them.
Very cool. Yeah, I've seen, it was one of the, not one of the last times I was here, it was a while ago. We had seen deer kind of running through the back, you know, but behind where the loops are, so kind of away from where most of the civilization is, towards the back end of the loops. But and I certainly heard things. I moved inside here so that there wasn't as much background noise interfering here and things, but there was definitely stuff moving about in the bushes out by the canal tonight. So it was kind of a active and noisy night on the wildlife front.
Yeah, I know last year my dog almost got a wild turkey. Wow. There was a few of those running around, and occasionally they will let you know that there are bears. They'll, but I haven't seen one. And they used to have, and it was kind of a little drama thing when they took them away. But they had a flock of peacocks that were living on the grounds, and they just walk around, and people would feed them, or you're not supposed to, but
oh wow.
But they were there, and they actually moved them because people complained because peacocks are pretty and everything, but they're loud. So enough people complained that they took them, and I think that flock of peacocks is actually living on Animal Kingdom property now.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Well, so Chris, I just gotta ask. This is just kind of what we were starting to talk about when you called in. So they always talk about the camping and campfire and ghost stories. And I know some friends that have told some pretty odd things, which I personally think were just meant to spook people at night. But just kind of curious, have you ever had anything weird happen, kind of when you've been out camping?
Not when I've been out camping, because when I'm out camping, I'm in an RV with satellite television and hot water and a restroom. So as far as weird things happening out by the campfire, not so much. But I don't know if you guys have heard of this, because I'm an internet guy. I started this forum on the internet, and I've seen just some weird things kind of pop up on their own on the internet, which is I don't know if you guys are aware or not. If you've heard of the kind of the myth that's come up on the internet of Slender Man.
Yes, my boys are into the Slender Man thing.
Now, I saw that whole thing kind of as it was happening. It started out a few years ago. I don't know how much you know about it, but it started out on a thread on another forum of just create fake paranormal images. Was the theme of the thread. Just make crazy fake ghost images, kind of like the one that they posted earlier, but kind of a little, they were going for a little more obvious.
Right.
But this guy posted a couple of threads of this Slender Man character that he kind of made up, and he kind of put him in the background of some kind of creepy looking pictures, and it took off like wildfire. Just people building on that myth, and now I've seen lately people saying, well, I saw that 20 years ago, and being completely serious about it.
Wow. Well, Mike, I'm gonna you might know more of the story than me. If you don't, that's fine. I'm just Mike, are you aware of it was one of the people from Fact or Fake did that experiment where they more or less invented an entity and then also started getting evidence. Are you familiar with that one at all, Mike Bowler?
Yeah, they had named that, and it's been a while. It named that after a lady, and they were doing that somewhere in Colorado. And what they were doing was basically had a bunch of investigators that had agreed to an experiment, but they weren't quite aware of what it was, and what they were going to do was they were going to basically give out some false information, a lot of claims in history of a supposed haunting at this location, and see if they could not possibly manifest EVPs and other evidence that is commonly collected on investigation sites once people know the history of it, and see if there was a possibility they were projecting this evidence themselves, and just see what happened. And I can't think of his name. It's not Ben Hansen. It's the dark-haired guy that is into the paranormal. And if you give me a minute, I'll do a little research and look that up. and get back with me here. Let me get on the net and see what I can find on that. But I am somewhat from a very fascinating way to do that. I really thought that was groundbreaking stuff, and I don't know that they've ever posted results on it, but I'll look.
Yeah, it was an interesting story. So it kind of just lends itself, almost like what you're getting at with this Slenderman thing, Chris, of, did the making up the story or talking about the story attracted something that wanted the attention, so is now just claiming to be, I want to say it was something like an N, like a Nina or Nancy, what they were calling this spirit, or, is it mentally projected from the people that are actually doing the investigation? And when you pick up these voices and name Nancy and all these things, is it actually being projected from the people investigating, or it's just a very interesting concept, but it's just what I thought of when you said that, that they made up this Slenderman thing, and then also people coming forward saying that they actually had seen it in the past. Kind of interesting.
Well, and I think one of the kind of the unintentionally brilliant things about it was that Slenderman has a blank face, so it's literally a blank slate.
Yeah.
You can for people to kind of put whatever they want on it.
And then always, if I remember correctly, too, at least from what I had seen on it, and I always think this is the best when they do horror movies this way or horror stories, it's always scarier when you do it this way, of there was a lot of sketchy, they left a lot of detail out of it as well, that it was just kind of this thing we're seeing, these pictures we're seeing that people were missing, but not much more than that. Is that pretty much the story, or did I miss the part?
And there's a YouTube series that's really well associated with this called Marble Hornets. And if anybody listening hasn't seen it, go start there at the beginning of that, and you'll see how they do it. It's never up close. You never see what's going on. You kind of see it almost the second or third time you watch it. Oh, there he is, way in the corner. Or, off in that line of trees. Or there he is in the line of trees, the camera looks away, and you come back, and he's, 50 yards closer. They do that kind of thing with it.
Okay.
But you never see you wouldn't see a really close-up of, Slenderman actually doing anything. It's way creepier if he's just kind of in the background, and you don't know what's going on, but he has this, crazy effect on people around him.
Okay, very cool. I will definitely need to check that out. For anyone interested in learning more about Fort Fiends, your site, camping in general, can you give just a little bit of background about kind of the site and what you have on there and how people can get in touch with it?
Sure. It's the site's at fortfiends.net, F-I-E-N-D-S, fortfiends.net, all one word. And we have a great discussion forum there. We have news about news and events at Fort Wilderness. If you need to know what the movie playing at the drive-in movie next week is, we have that. Any kind of information about the campsites or the cabins. You don't even have to, have a camper to enjoy Fort Wilderness. They have wilderness cabins there that are a great option. So we have all that, and again, it's fortfiends.net.
Yeah, I'll just add too. I mean, we don't have a camper. We actually rented a pop-up this time down here, and it has been really nice. We've always tented it in the past, and it's been a really nice thing to do. And so we kind of came down. It was nice and set up. We kind of moved in, and then we'll move out from it. So it's been great, and it hasn't been me. It's been my wife that really did the discovery of it. But I know through talking to you all and learning things, we knew very little about the fort prior to about 5 years ago, and now we've become regulars coming down here and thoroughly enjoy it. And there's so much to do down here, and there's so much to do just within the fort itself. So that's kind of what we're doing this week, is just kind of hanging out and doing things here, not doing any park stuff. But definitely a great resource and great people. So anyone out there that is interested in the learning anything about the camping or Fort Wilderness, definitely check out the site. I just posted the link in the chat room here. So, Chris, I'm not sure. There were some other people in the chat that I know had some kind of para questions, but I'll put you on the spot here. It's totally fine if you don't have any, but any questions for any of us on the paranormal side of things?
No, I saw you posted the link about that. I guess it was the Pearl experiment.
Yes, I did. The reading that I've done on that, and it's I can't be that accurate on it. My memory is a little shaky. I do. I hate to say this, but I for a while I did 3 nights a week with George, and you begin to mix the facts up a little bit of stories you've heard, and it was quite a while back. And we actually had Bill Murphy on. I can't believe I couldn't remember his name there. I've been a long day watching my Steelers play. But the gist, from what I remember, was that once somebody is told something, that is there a potential possibility that they are omitting their own evidence. The possibility that if you took 2 or 3 people into a location, showed them a picture of an apparition that somebody supposedly had taken a photograph of there that may have been debunked, that they were not unaware of a shadow from a mirror or something like that of somebody that was actually there. They called this the Pearl experiment, that let them know that they believe that the spirit of Pearl resides at this particular location. Send them in with the same equipment that most of us investigators use for an investigation and see what the results are. And what they have found is a lot of times they will get answers from somebody named Pearl, even though to the best of their knowledge there's nobody there.
Wow. That's almost, some metaphysical stuff there. To name a thing is to create it.
Right. So, I think it's an important part of the study as we move forward with this. It's a very serious part because, are we out there feeding ourselves the evidence we're looking for? Could this research turn into we have the capabilities of doing this versus we were actually discovering something? So I think every corner has to be looked at. What do you think about that, Matt? Oh, did we lose everybody?
I'm here.
Well, I'm still here. Okay.
Chris, William, okay, looks like we lost Matt. Matt's not in the queue there, so we'll just keep talking about this Pearl experiment. Bill Murphy is very interesting, very, very credible person, and that's a part of the community that I really try to, and I know Matthew, I've never met Matt in person, we've become friends through the community, that's one of the things that I think brings back experiments like that, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on this, William and Chris both, that, in fact, William, we'll kind of get your thoughts on it, that credibility means everything because I've been doing this for a while, and I backed off. I was lucky enough back a few years ago to have a production company want to do some filming of me and some of my guys because it was a popular thing. It never really materialized in anything. It fed our egos a little bit and, the potential of making some money at it, but that was a couple of years ago, and we've taken a much more realistic look at this. Now we go out not so much for bragging rights or to show anybody anything, but out of our own curiosities, and you have to look at everything. I have a scientific guys group that is a microbiologist by day and a ghost hunter, as he says, by weekend when we go out. But looks like maybe Matt's back in here with us. But you have to bring the credibility, and anything's possible when we're out there collecting evidence that we don't really know where it's coming from. So, William, your thoughts on that a little bit on this Pearl experiment?
I agree, Mike. for me, I'm not one who's going out looking for approval or anything, but, say, like with the picture, it's one of those things that, Matt asked, and, I'm not trying to say, hey, this is it, but to have something credible is what I'm looking for. And the Pearl experiment, I find it interesting. Tonight's the first night I've heard about it. So I find that very interesting. I want to read up some more on that, and follow up with that as well. But I do find that interesting that, if that's something we could do,
Right. The thing that I kind of took from this is that I also was a huge skeptic on your psychics, your mediums, your clairvoyants. Mm-hmm. Come to find out after listening to them for years, I may be a bit of a sensitive myself and have these abilities. And one of the things that I have often said to people that are big skeptics of that, I think anybody who's of age and have been driving an automobile for years, at some point during their life, whether you had children in the car, others, or by yourself, something told you that you needed to be maybe a little more cautious than normal without anything in front of you at that particular time alarming you to it. And a few miles down the road or something like that, you see a wreck. Something that may have happened that you felt, gosh, I wonder if I could have been involved in that or whatever, that maybe you picked up on the energy of that particular situation happening while you were down the road that caused you to check the seatbelt, check your speed, check cars around you and things like that, which is a bit of a psychic sensitive ability that I think we all have to a certain extent. Well, if that's the case, aren't we kind of with this Pearl experiment a little bit that I've read on it and remember listening to them talk about it back then, isn't that kind of the same thing that if you're able to go into a location, if we have these abilities, it's almost a reverse effect of these abilities, that things we think should be happening, we're actually pushing out there ourselves in a way that we may not be aware of at this point, that science has not discovered how we're able to do this at this point. Matt, you make it back in with us?
I'm back in, and kind of related to that, I'll have to dig this up because one of the weirdest things that I've had audio-wise, and I think it might be kind of related into this all, was there was a time in the pediatrics ward at Tala where it was almost like something was doing a Jedi mind trick, but it's kind of, it's the chicken or the egg. Was it something kind of making a suggestion that I was picking up on, or was it my own thoughts kind of preceding what I verbalized? Basically what happened was on two occasions you hear a voice say the ball. It's like one of these, just like in Waverly and things in the pediatric ward, there's a bunch of these kids inflatable balls that people lay around and kind of draw chalk around to see if they'll move. And we had balls out in the hallway, and we're in the room, and two different occasions you hear this voice say the ball, and I say, maybe like 2 seconds later, why doesn't somebody go out and get the ball in the hallway? And it just always sounded kind of odd that, it could have just been a total coincidence, but there I am, sitting in the room, you record a voice saying the ball, which wasn't any of us, and then I asked somebody to go get the ball, and it happened twice. And so I just kind of wondered, is it kind of the power of suggestion from almost like a subliminal thing that we're not picking up, or much like what you were just mentioning, Mike, with, are we somehow able to project kind of what's in our head on some of these things? Was I recording what I was thinking before I sent it out there? I'm not saying that is definitely the case. It was just a very, very odd thing.
No, it is. So, luckily, I'm going to bring this up. I think we have Thomas Fusco, for anybody listening tonight that wants to join Wednesday night with Chris Medina and me. If you have ever listened to somebody that really is just head and shoulders above anybody I've ever met in the field, Thomas Fusco, who is not an investigator, basically just somebody that's very passionate about this study. And I'm going to run that past him because he talks about time travel, EVPs, and wormholes and things like that, and has mentioned stories of people recording things that have been projected by others and things like that I think falls right in the line with this Pearl experiment that they conducted out there. So, yeah, it's a good possibility we may be dealing with both. Who knows at this point?
Very, very interesting. And I see Curtis has logged into the chat room, and I know he does some investigating as well, and I believe he's actually going to, him and Melissa in the chat room are going to go out with me tomorrow night. George has mentioned several times about this location out in the Ocala Forest, this ghost town, and I've had we're having the opportunity to go out with George tomorrow night and check this location out. So a couple of members of Fort Fiends are going to go out with me for this location, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I've not been to this area before. I've been in the Ocala Forest before, but I've never been to this location, so I'm very much looking forward to it. And we have another caller. We'll see if this is area code 321. And it's not, what's it doing? Okay, we go. It's not liking me here. Area code 321, welcome to Sunday Night Dead. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, it's Melissa.
Hey, Melissa, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. I'd like to introduce Melissa to our my co-host here, Mike Bowler.
How are you, Melissa? Welcome.
Hi, Mike. How are you tonight?
It's fine.
Good.
It's fine.
Are you getting interference, Melissa? I'm hearing
Yeah.
some.
Yes, there is some kind of an interference here.
I heard a little crackling.
Yeah. Melissa, are you on a cell phone or are you on a landline?
I'm on a cell phone.
Any possibility we could get you to try to call back in? It's probably not your phone. It may be the Blog Talk connection.
Okay, I'll call back.
Yeah, call right back. Sometimes, Matt, that will clear it up. We've had that issue on many of the shows.
Okay.
Okay.
And she's kind of out here in the middle of the woods with myself as well here, so we'll see how that connection comes back through. But yeah, Melissa's been to I know at least Gettysburg and the Stanley. So I'm kind of curious as to her thoughts and perspectives on that. And Curtis, who I see is in the chat room, he can go ahead and chat again, or just send info in the chat if he doesn't want to call in, or he's feel free to call in, Curtis. I know he has equipment. He's done some investigation, so I'm not sure what he has done locally here in Florida or even anywhere beyond that. All right, let's see. We're going to try Melissa here again. Waiting for Blog Talk to... Melissa, you there?
Let me see if I can get her in here, Matt.
Okay. I was even nice to the orbs today, and they're still messing with me.
Here she goes. Melissa, you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, much better.
That's a better...
It's those orbs.
It's, yeah, the orbs are not... they do not like me. So it's all because the story on that is, and I'll have to post it again just for the fun of it. I had I do all kinds of odd promos for the show, and so I had this picture of a bunch of dust and said that these orbs can't listen to internet radio because they don't have arms and fingers, but if they did, they would listen to Sunday Night Dead, and I guess that upset the quote-unquote orb community, and so now I get orbs that pick up my studio and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes it just looks like it's snowing. Sometimes it just has to dust a little more, but yeah, so I tend to piss off the orbs. So anyway, Melissa, let's I'm very curious about both your experience at Stanley and Gettysburg, but and for everyone listening out here, this is Melissa, a fellow Fort Fiend, and someone that is down here with us. We got to talk to her a little bit last night. So how are you doing, and can you tell us a little bit about those two locations?
Okay. Well, my husband and I took a camping trip out west this summer, and it was my first time going to Colorado and all of these other states out there. And we went to Rocky Mountain National Park, which is at Estes Park, Colorado. And that, of course, is where the Stanley is. And I really, really wanted to take a hunt at the hotel. They do them on weekends only, and I wasn't going to be able to get that into our schedule. So I decided, I'll at least go and tour the place. Took a history tour. And while I was there, the group was moving from the first floor up to the fourth floor. I decided I was going to ride the elevator up rather than doing the stairs. And the elevator is one of the really old-fashioned ones. It's glass, and it's got the metal grates that come across that you have to pull yourself. So I press the button, and the elevator comes to the floor that I'm at, and it stops, but the door never opens up, and then it goes down. So I press the button again, and the thing finally comes up, and it acts like the door doesn't want to open up. So I'm kind of wondering if I want to get in there or not. But I get in, and I press the button for number 4, and the elevator starts rising, but it never quite makes it to another floor. For about 5 minutes. It was kind of scary. And I never picked up anything in pictures. I grabbed my camera because I felt as though somebody was there. I had the chills. My neck was just feeling all kind of strange vibes. And there was also a hint of tobacco. And Matt, you and I had talked earlier this week about if you're an ex-smoker, you can always smell tobacco more than non-smokers can smell it. So I finally get off at the 4th floor, and I swear I'm not getting back on that elevator. I share the experience with 2 other women who were part of the tour and with the young lady giving the tour. And she pulls us to the side at one point, and she said that we should all go ride the elevator again. And then she'll tell us about the elevator. So when we were going to another floor, the 3 of us got in the elevator, and you would have sworn that there was somebody in there smoking a cigar with cherry tobacco. And one of the ladies said that she felt like somebody had grabbed her arm. So when we get down to the basement, the young lady pulls us to the side, and she starts telling us about a man who had lived at the Stanley, and he lived on the 4th floor. His room was right next to the elevator, and he was quite the ladies' man, and he liked to ride the elevators with the young ladies and give them attention. So kind of spooky. And I swear I would never go back in that elevator again.
That's wild.
So hopefully we can get out there. There was a couple of other just strange feelings, and the building next to it, the concert hall, was closed at the time, but I think that they're going to be opening that up for ghost hunts this next year. So I'm really hoping that maybe we can get up there and go take a hunt and do some camping out there. It's absolutely beautiful from the campground. It's all natural. There's no electric water or anything like that, but you're in the national park, and the elk go walking through your campsite, and you've got the mountains there, and that's the kind of thing that you can't get staying in a hotel. So that's one of those things about the camping things, that there are sometimes some places you can go to that if you didn't have a camper, you couldn't go. So.
Wow, very cool. And I just saw to Leo on the. Hopefully he'll log back in. He was asking about has the storm come up. We were talking briefly at the beginning of the hour about the huge storm in the Northeast, but I was putting out a offer, and I'll say it again. Anyone out there that has had any personal experiences with that storm last week, or knows anyone who has anything to relay, since there's most of the country is, or I should say, the entire country is concerned about what's happened up there, and not all of us has experienced this firsthand. So there's a lot of interest in the stories and what's going on up there in the Northeast. So please, anyone who has any stories to talk about, let me...
Matt, I can tell you that Hoboken, New Jersey, Park Avenue in Hoboken, got power back at 1 o'clock this morning, and my son lives there, and I told him never stay again. The whole area was flooded except for his street, and it had no power, and they were very cold the last day or two, and so Mom from Florida said never stay again in a storm.
Wow. All right, well, we see, let's see, we have area code 585 here. Let's see who's calling in here. This could be a storm story. Hello, area code 585. Who am I speaking with?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I'm from upstate New York. I was calling to get your guys' opinion about this whole weather issue. Like with is it just me, or has it been like the past 5 years we've been having some incredible weather? I mean, and earthquakes and all sorts of disasters that have killed like thousands and thousands of people. Has it always been like that, or is it just recently? Because ever since the first tsunami that hit India, which I think it was around 20 or 30,000 people died, from there on it's been like a death toll in the thousands. I don't remember that type of destruction when I was a kid. And I was just wondering, what is your guys' opinion on why this is happening, or is it actually something we should be concerned about?
I'll weigh mine in here on this, and I'll just add area code 319. We see in the queue here. We'll bring you in very shortly. I think some of it is a function of probability, and then some of it is a function of how we've started to build and live as a society. So when you think about, if you look back historically on major hurricanes, some of the biggest hurricanes, although they didn't have the same meteorological, I can't talk tonight, equipment to get as much detail, when some of these big ones have hit in the past, they were hitting mainly barren areas. Now, when you think about as our population density increases and we move more and more to the coast, landfalls in certain areas, and we were actually statistically overdue for a northeastern U.S. landfall of a hurricane. It just happened to be a unique. There's this kind of weird dynamic between the jet stream, a cold front coming through, and a hurricane that formed this superstorm. But I think the magnitude seems bigger because we have more people in harm's way with some of these things. Same things with the tornadoes. I don't think we're necessarily getting any more tornadoes touching down, but think about 100 years ago, 200 years ago, how many tornadoes touched down in barren fields, nowhere close to anyone's house. Whereas now, more of this area is getting more and more populated. There's more things for it to be able to hit and damage. Same thing with, to some degree, really with the earthquakes. I mean, I think it's in the 1830s, it might have been the 1840s. There's a fault line, the New Madrid fault line in Missouri. They think that might have been one of the worst earthquakes, at least since the founding of the United States, but it happened in such a, again, barren area. There isn't a whole lot of detail and a whole lot there that got damaged, except they know that it was strong enough that supposedly church bells were rung in Boston, which is, obviously really far away, and the Mississippi River ran backwards for a certain amount of time. So, again, I don't know what you guys think, Mike or William. I think some of it is it's probability. You're going to hit certain years where things happen more than others, but I also think it's a function of kind of how our population is moving and how dense it is in certain areas where these things occur.
I agree, man.
I would have to agree. I also have to think that, I don't want to get into a political thing on this, but there are people out there that most of the scientific community do believe that global warming has maybe tipped a few things in a certain direction. The warming of the ocean will cause these storms to be more intense. obviously anybody that has studied or looked, and I know very little about hurricanes other than what I see when we have one coming and watching the news, that the warmer the water, the more the storms tend to intensify. Is that correct, Matt? I believe?
Yeah, yeah. I
think
mean,
it is.
Another way to think about it is just, temperature equals energy. So, higher temps, more energy is present. So.
Well, in my, I like what you guys said, but in a way, I think what you guys are saying that it's coincidental, but I don't think so. I think that this is not supposed to be. I mean, like if unless something was changed, you know what I mean? Like I don't think it's supposed to be every year we have 2 or 3 major storms where thousands of people are dying. Like even this year alone, there was at least 4 or 5 incidences where the death tolls are just like astronomical. Ever since that, let me see, what was it? The major one this year was the Japanese thing. What happened in Japan, and then when that was happening over here in the States, we had birds falling all down from the skies, and then there was the cattle dying, and then fish washing up on shore. And I'm a fisherman, and up here in upstate New York. And right now, in the middle of October is when we should be fishing for salmon. But this year, they actually came in like 2 months early. We were fishing for them in in August. For no reason, they just started coming in earlier like that. And it just seems like there's something that's not supposed to be happening. It's not going up.
Yeah, I was going to say you bring up a good point, and now that you're going in that direction, I've had these discussions on some of our shows with other people. This is Mike, by the way. One of the things to keep in mind is that if you do look back, and I haven't put a lot into this, but I trusted the people I was talking to, the history of weather phenomenon, and things that you're talking about, this typically does fall into a pattern. You can look back and say there is no pattern, but there is. If you look back long enough, any good scientist, as Matthew would say, being a mathematician, can put stats to it and come up with some form of a formula. The other thing, too, that I think is a magical piece to this scenario is the information and technology age we're living in. My parents and possibly your parents and grandparents did not have the news. They may have known about the storm in your area, but they wouldn't have known about the birds in the middle of the country and things like that you're able to put together, that the information was not as documented as much back then because it wasn't shared through the great www. The Internet. We did not have the information sharing age that we have now. So anything that's going on the globe that seems to be odd, unexplained, or mysterious, you may read about once you pop that computer open the next day. This is really the first generation that has had that luxury. Those things may have been happening back then, but they're not documented because they weren't shared as easily.
Okay, that makes much more sense then. So you think that this has always been happening, it's just we were never really told about it, basically. Like we didn't have the news that really covered all these events like we have now, where we can just go on the web and somebody's just posting up one of their videos that they've seen outside or something like that.
I think you can probably put a little bit of both in there, and also you have the scenario, if we are having more of these things than normal, it's the same thing of somebody that, an example would be the gambles. Why did they go on such a bad luck streak? Did they have bad luck, or were they just due that they weren't going to win as often as they had? Somebody who plays the stock market, when you bet on football, which is the NFL is going these days, what causes somebody to be successful with their fantasy football team for a few years, and then just for whatever reason they put just as much effort into it for the next year, they absolutely fail miserably. You can't necessarily predict the future, and that's one thing I think most people can. I don't think your psyches can. I think they can be in touch with history and pick up on emotions and things that are present, but predicting the future is, I think, still impossible at this point, because I think there's too many times. The butterfly effect would be something that we could get into to discuss that. There's too many things that go into changing things as they happen.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense to me. I just thought it was irregular ever since that whole first tsunami that happened over in India, where a bunch of people just died. And it seems like every year from there till now, it's been a major storm with Katrina, the Haiti, a bunch of other storms. It seems like every year it's starting to be more and more storms. Like this year and last year alone has been like at least 4 or 5 major events. And it seems to be increasing, which is some criticism in me or some sort of something in me is saying something's wrong because it's starting to happen more than it should be. And I understand your analogy about saying gambling, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but I don't think people lose for like 10 years in a row. You know what I mean?
Well, there's some really bad gamblers out there. So, but no, I see your point. One of the things that I don't think you're going that I'll bring up because I've heard a lot of people say this, and Matt, I'm sure you can comment on this, is the Mayan calendar and December 21st, 2012, which we're quickly approaching here. That so many people have talked about. These are signs of the doom and gloom that's coming on that day. That these are the things that are supposed to indicate that that's coming. One of the things that I often say to people that I believe in is the calendar changes with leap year, that if we were going to have that day, I believe the actual date, if you put a pin to it, would have been November 5th or 6th of 2011. So we're past it. Have you heard anything on that, Matt, with a lot of people saying that the weather phenomenon, the birds, and a lot of the things that have been going on and being documented are associated with the Mayan calendar?
Well, I hate to kind of be a wet blanket on this, but there's a very similar story that comes. I mean, there was things. Every odd thing was getting associated with 2000. If you remember, 12 years ago, and so there is this kind of recurring theme. And before that, there were certain prophets out there that saying that. Guys claiming that, in 1985 the world's going to end and these different things. And I think to some degree it's just part of human nature. We don't like what we can't control. And so it's my own personal opinion that it's reassuring to some people, even though it's kind of a doomsday thing, to feel like there's some control over it, that in terms of we know it's not going to happen before this time, so to speak, even though we really don't. That's just my own my own opinion on this. I've seen in the chat room they were asking, so I'll just go ahead and direct this. They were asking if any of us, Mike, you, me, or William, were doomsday preppers. I personally am not. My own personal opinion on this is if it's a natural cause, I don't have any control over it, so I try not to invest lots of time over things I have no control over. And two, kind of from the religious standpoint, if God's really going to end the world and I can come up with some game plan to avoid that, then that doesn't say much about the power of God to destroy the world. So in either way, I don't feel that it's within my control. Hopefully on a human nature side, or things that are done, war or something along those lines, that we have control. Hopefully, cooler heads prevail, and I do hope in general, as a society, we move towards having greater respect for our fellow human beings. So hopefully, as far as doomsday things that we have control over, that never happens. But the other ones that we have no control over, I don't really stress over that.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily like I don't believe in the Mayan calendar and all that type of stuff. I don't think it's really anything to do with that. I think that there is something going on, though, and I also think that like our government or somebody that knows something is not telling the society that there is a big problem. And for whatever reason why they're not telling us, maybe to keep everybody from becoming like in a panic state and going crazy, and then maybe end up with a police state society or something to keep everybody in control. I think they might be doing that, but at the same time, I think there is. I'm pretty sure there is something going on that we should know about, and they should prepare us for that at least.
Let me say this, and that's kind of a conspiracy theory, and I'm right there with you. I love your thought process here, so when I say this, definitely I'm not going against what you're saying there. But George Lopez, who is the founder of Dead Air Paranormal, that gives me and Matt this opportunity for me to do my show and him to do his, has been doing this for a while, and me and him have had this discussion, and it dawned on me one night, in today's political world, when we talk of the government, you have to include the politics in the government. And George had said to me that there's a lot of people within the government that may be on an as-needed basis that know about things, specifically something like you may be mentioning here, that they're aware of something that we can't control, instead of causing the panic and this and that. Once again, in today's age of technology and information and sharing in political gain, there's going to be somebody that gets their hands on this information. There's too much money to be made for them not to break or not to use it for political gain. And that, I'm not saying I know for 100% across the board, but there's hardly anything, I believe, these days that the government is aware of that the corporations out there are not more aware of or aware of first and use this for their own financial and political gain. That the government does not have that much control as they might have, say, back in the 50s or 60s when people began to think these things about the government.
All right. Okay, well, thank you for taking my call. See you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Call.
Also want to, that was a very interesting discussion there.
Always is, always is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wasn't sure at first where that was going, but, yeah, very, very interesting on this. I'll just add to it, I was just going to head typing that Karen who asked about were we doomsday prep people. I would add, I distinguish between, I think it's always good to have preparations in terms of kind of short-term things, food supplies, things along those lines. Am I storing up, 3 years' worth of food and a small arsenal for the upcoming, revolution or zombie apocalypse or something along those lines? No, I am not, but, that's just...
In fact, I'll share with you if everybody will listen to Matt's show, I will share the link that Chris Medina and myself from Paranormal Kool-Aid will be putting up a website, and for $199.99, I will send you the December 21st, 2012 survival guide that we're putting together.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, without any further delay here, I want to bring on Mr. Curtis, another fellow Fort Fiend here, and someone who's going to be accompanying me tomorrow night to Curse City. Mr. Curtis, how are you doing tonight?
Not too bad at all. I just have one question about that $199.95. Does that come with a money-back guarantee?
No, it does not.
Oh, man, well, I was all excited there for a minute.
If you survive, you survive. We're just going to guarantee survival, that's all.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, it was a thought. And I think the biggest thing, with the preppers and all that is the fear of the unknown. I mean, most people, they fear what they don't know, and they don't, even like with ghosts, paranormal things. I've talked to so many people that I would bet that 2/3 to 3/4 of the people that I've talked to, when they find out that we've done ghost hunting and that, they'll tell me personal experiences that they've had that they have never told anybody for fear that they would be thought crazy. It's amazing the things I've heard, and they all say the same thing. I've never told anybody. Great point, Curtis. So,
yeah, I would agree. I've had very similar experiences there, and it's funny. It's usually I don't know if anyone else runs into this, but generally, people kind of feel you out and ask questions about what did you experience, and then after you put a couple things out on the table there, then they'll be willing to kind of share some of their stories. So I totally agree, Curtis, on that one as well. So how long have you been doing some investigations, Curtis?
Well, we started probably, what did you say there? About 6 years ago, I guess, yeah. She keeps track of all this stuff, my wife, so. Jody. But yeah, we lived in a house built at around 1900, and we had ghosts in there. It's funny because we never told each other about experiences that we saw in the house. We never said anything to each other about it. And then, well, one day she asked me, I was sitting at the computer, and she goes, did you just go to the bathroom? And I'm like, well, no, I'm sitting here. She goes, are you in the dining room? Yes, I am. Well, I just saw somebody walk from the back bedroom to the bathroom. I said, well, it wasn't me. It's weird because I said, I have seen that myself many times. I've seen a black shape in the shape of a person go from that back bedroom to the area where the back bathroom is. And, I'd never said anything to her. We both had seen another thing over and over many times and never said anything to each other, and it was exactly the same thing. We saw legs walking up the stairs going from the first floor to the second floor. It's like a pair of pants going up the stairs. And we never told each other about it until one day, well, yeah, I've seen that quite a few. I thought maybe I was just seeing a shadow or something or what, So we started investigating, okay, how could we make this happen? Is there some way that we can actually create it? And that's how we tell. If we can't create it then anyway, then we think, well, maybe there's something to it. But that's kind of how we got started, seeing things in our own house, seeing people upstairs. I have a daughter who is a non-believer. She says, I do not believe in ghosts. There's no way, no how. But she wouldn't sleep upstairs in that one bedroom. She refused to sleep in that.
I want to quick add here, because I know there's a number of investigators here in the chat room, and from Mike and William. I have noticed on the reports, I don't know if you've noticed the same thing or not, I see far more, if someone's going to report seeing a partial body, I hear reports of seeing a pair of legs far more than you see, like a floating head or, an arm or just, from the waist up or things. I hear this, we see legs moving a fair amount. I'm just kind of curious, has that been other people's experience from when you're hearing people relay experiences, and anyone have any theory as to why?
Certainly. Not in my end of it anyway. The reason it was legs in ours is because the second floor, the way it was designed, where the stairs were, it went up the wall, and you really didn't see them until all you could see was legs. Even if a real person was going upstairs, you couldn't see the top half. Well, we definitely saw the whole person, or persons, because there was actually three of them, upstairs. We saw them on numerous occasions. We saw the one person going from the back. Yeah, my wife saw one of them she was going up the stairs, and she saw him, and all of a sudden she saw it go to the right. And she's like, I saw you. I'm going to find out who you are. That's kind of weird, but it was interesting. It was very interesting. We've been doing it, like I say, off and on for about 6 years. We did one ghost hunt the week before we moved down here to Florida, and it was in a house that had no power. And we had EMF detectors, we had temperature, thermometers, audio, all kinds of things. And then we started asking questions out in an area that there used to be a barn, and there was a person who committed suicide in that barn. And we started getting responses on the EMF detectors, very strong ones on some of them. When we mentioned a dog that was killed there on the premises, we knew the name of the person who killed himself, we knew the name of the dog. When we asked the person we were talking to, we had a K2 meter that shows up lights in that, okay? And we just said, okay, make it go up if it's a yes or no. Make it flash twice if it's a no or whatever. And we had a conversation going back and forth, and we brought up the dog. We said, do you have a chance to play with the dog? And we gave the dog's name. It went absolutely berserk. Boom, all the way up. All the way up. And there's no power source around there, so we know it wasn't doing it. Actually, it was on the K2 meter and another EMF. They both went off at the same time. They were probably about 5 feet apart. So we know it's not something weird, outside, because there is no power. So, but yeah, we've had some interesting experience. I've been touched by somebody at St. Augustine Lighthouse, which, in a way, was validated for me, because the ghost hunters, the show Ghost Hunters, they went there the second time. When they did, they went into the basement of the caretaker's house, and when they were doing the thermal, they were going around. And I mentioned, as we were watching, I said, well, that's the corner that I heard the breathing in, and I was looking for some type of a vent or something. There was nothing. and then they went to the left, and as they went to the left, which is where I was touched under my under part of my arm, there was an actual person standing there on the thermal camera. So I just like, whoa, and they went back to it because they didn't catch it immediately, and they went back and said, there's somebody standing right here. And you could see the cap, the old type of captain's cap or something. The guy was standing right there, and I just looked up and I said, that's the corner that something touched my arm, which I did not expect. By the way, anybody who's in a ghost hunting, you may feel that you're prepared for anything, but when it really happens, it's like, whoa. I don't know if you guys feel that way or not, but when something actually does happen, you sit there and go, okay, I'm asking for it, I'm hoping, but when it does happen, it's like, whoa, that just happened. And so it's really kind of weird. So, I have had enough things happen that I know there's more out there than what everybody else would like you to believe and what others would admit to. Like he was talking about what the government knows and things like that, and the last guy in that as well. They're never going to tell you that they know that there could be aliens or that there could be, ghosts or there could be, there's some other type of an afterlife or whatever it might be. They're never going to tell you that because too many people can't handle the truth of those types of things. So, but when you experience them yourself, it's the whole game changes. I mean, that's probably happened to anybody who's done this before, but anyway,
Curtis,
we've had a lot of cool things.
What was your biggest, along those lines? What was kind of your biggest when it actually happened in front of you, surprise kind of experience?
The surprise?
Yeah, you know how, like you said, you're looking for it, and then when it happens, it's like, oh, wow. So if you had to give an example of, maybe your biggest one.
I think it's when something touched my arm at St. Augustine Lighthouse there.
Okay.
Well, not in the lighthouse, but in the caretakers. Only because I've seen things. Yes, I've seen numerous times. I've seen things, the shadows and the shapes and the shape of a person and all that. But when something actually touches you, I had my arms out, and I said, if somebody's here, make your presence known. I put my arms out, go ahead and touch me. Fully expecting nothing to touch me. And when it did, I just went, well, okay. And it's funny because at that time, I was the only one in the basement there. My wife came downstairs. She comes downstairs, starts walking towards me, and she's got this weird look on her face, and she turns around and she goes shooting back up the stairs. And I'm like, what the heck? And she goes, I can't breathe. She said, I can't breathe. And I'm like, okay. So I was downstairs for another 5 minutes or so, and I went upstairs, and we were getting ready to leave, and I said, did you notice anything weird downstairs? I didn't tell her what happened to me. She goes, well, I went downstairs, and it was like somebody was squeezing me. She said, I could not breathe, like somebody was just literally in a bear hug squeezing her. She says, I went upstairs, and it was fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, because I still had not said anything to her about hearing the sounds that I followed. You just followed the sounds right into the corner, and it was just weird because, I hear this like somebody sleeping and breathing heavily in their sleep. And I follow it, and there's nothing in the corner. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then when I went, and nothing happened in that corner, but when I went to the next corner, that thing touched my arm, the underside of my arm. I mean, just like somebody just touched it with their hand. I just went, okay, I wanted it, but I wasn't, really didn't expect it. And that really kind of threw me for a loop there. I'm just like, okay, that
wow.
I didn't know that was going to happen. That's probably one of the weirdest ones. We have had audios that we have had of a small child, toddler. We have recorded. We have a really, really nice photo of an orb, and we didn't know until about a year later that we found it in a book that sometimes you can catch an orb and right over this one family's tombstone. And that was that family. And we caught it from 2 different places, 2 different times. And it was probably, looked like it was maybe about 8 to 10 inches in diameter, and it was luminescent. It had its own bluish, purple color to it. And being from 2 different directions, it's not a light from something. That was the thing. We're not real big on orbs. We see so many that people put on, and I'm like, well, that looks like a bug. I mean, I don't, like I put in the chat room, I said, with pictures and things like that, you really got to show me. But when people tell me about their experiences, I've heard some really amazing things. I mean, amazing things. And in most cases, they've never told anybody. Never. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Hopefully something happens or doesn't or whatever, as long as we get to kind of see what happens there. That would be kind of cool. We'll see what happens there.
Well, I've heard great things about this location from George, so I'm very much excited about doing it, and it's always great for me personally, for selfish reasons, to be able to work a investigation into a vacation. So, and my wife was very gracious, as the way she worded it was, it's all our vacation. It's your vacation too. You enjoy doing this, go for it. So. So I'm very, very much looking forward to being able to do this. How was the St. Because St. Augustine's certainly one that I would love to check out sometime. Tell us a little bit about. And I don't know that many, even though I know it's a place people go to. I don't know that many, or haven't talked to that many people firsthand that have been in there. Can you tell us a little bit about that location and some of your other experiences there, in addition to the touching incident?
There, we went up the stairs. I don't know how many stairs it was, 200 and some stairs. I don't remember. It was a lot of them, okay? We took pictures up all the way. We had audio. We got really absolutely nothing out of it. I mean, nothing out of that itself. Now, we were there at 10 o'clock in the morning, though, okay, when they opened. So, to me, a lot of people feel that you have to go ghost hunting at night. I'm not sure the reasoning there, because I've seen ghosts just as much in the daytime as I have seen at night. So I don't know if it's because things are quieter then and you have less outside. You guys may know that better. All I can tell you is what my experience is. If there's a ghost, they don't care what time it is. I mean, that's just kind of the way it's going.
Yeah, I'll add, I've had just as luck. I've done daytime ones at Trans-Allegheny, and I've had just as much, if not more, luck during those as well. The one advantage I would say on the night is exactly what you said, is in general you have less activity going on all around you, so your odds of contamination are, from outside sources are more than likely going to be less. But as far as an activity standpoint, unless there's some residual, time pattern associated with the evening, there's nothing. In my opinion, there's nothing magical about it being light versus being dark. Obviously, shadow play and some things, I think it's in lower light. I think it takes less energy for things to manifest. So maybe something that has less energy to use, you might have a better chance of actually seeing it in low light than high light. But I don't necessarily consider that activity. It's just what you can experience. That entity, even if you can't see it, you could still experience it in a different way during the daytime. So that's just my thoughts on it. What do you think, Mike or William? Let's go to Mike first.
What was the question again there? I was typing away, buddy.
I'm sorry, sir. The whole activity in daytime versus nighttime, do you need to investigate at night, or is there any problem with investigating?
No, not at all. In fact, you go back 4 or 5 years ago when I finally decided that I was going to get with a couple of my partners here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and start to do that. One of the things that I wanted to do when we sat down and set the guidelines of how we would do this would be go to the location a few days before just to check it out so that we could be more prepared when we got there of any elements we were facing, whether it was going to be safe, if it was an abandoned location or something like that. And I began to realize a couple of years into this, we were collecting the best evidence on what I call the pre-investigations, which were during the daytime. So, I've often said that if you're dealing with what we consider an intelligent haunting, as you may have heard me and George joke before on our show, Matthew, that spirit, if they're taking what we believe are the conscious personalities that we have now as live human beings with them as spirits when they move on, may grow bored with people who come in, just as no different than having visitors over to your house. People that have been there before, you may not get activity out of that. I think first time you're in a location, whether it be night, day, 3 a.m., 3 p.m., it doesn't matter to the spirit. If they're curious about you, want to come check you out, communicate with you, if they're capable of it, they're going to do it no matter when.
And I agree, Mike. I think Matt and I ran into the same thing when we were at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, where we're up on the 3rd floor of the psychiatric section, and I think they get a call in on the website saying that they thought they saw a 4th person up there with us. So my opinion is, any time of the day or night, I think if they want to reveal themselves or, you get stuff, you can get it at any time.
No, I agree. And, Matt, before you move any further, I was going to make a comment. I thought about something. The conversation was going so well there. I didn't want to interrupt. When you were talking about the legs versus the torsos, the heads, and things like that, I have developed my own little theory about that, just real quick. And like I said, it's just my theory, is that whatever in the environment causes this, and I believe that probably 98% of the time what we're seeing is residual. When we see stuff like this, we see, something that has stood still in time without going into a long explanation. And whatever it is in the environment in this specific location that allows us to possibly catch a glimpse of an apparition of something that may be going to the bathroom, as you were saying, that I don't think it differs on what part of it is, that we may not just be able to visibly see everything that's there, that it's all there. We're just maybe only making out if we capture it with video or a camera, or if we actually see it ourselves with our own eyes, that there's no rhyme or reason on what you're seeing. If you see the full apparition, you see the full apparition. If you only see a head, if you only see the upper part of the body, the legs, or whatever you see, a lot of times the black masses that we see that we just think is a black mass or a cloud could be part of a body, but it's just not materialized enough to be a body part or recognizable. And I think a lot of times these are residual.
Well, that makes sense. It's like I said, it's very interesting in that I've heard, or I guess the next most common thing would be an arm or a hand, but very rarely I have heard reports of we saw legs going down a hallway, or we saw legs going into a room, or we saw legs going up to a stair, but I very rarely ever hear of we saw a head floating down a hallway or a torso, So what I'm saying, obviously people see faces and things, but when, as far as a partial body part moving into an area, I have personally heard reports of people seeing legs moving far more than anything else, and it's just, it kind of just, in my opinion, in my mind, just kind of begs to wonder, why.
Well, and the thing about it is you stop and think about it, and I've never really heard it put that way. The first thing that comes into my mind is, as far as being alarming, or actually, as Curtis said earlier, scaring you to death, when you actually wish for something and you see it. Most people, including myself, if I went to a location and saw some legs walking down a hall, I could probably deal with that a lot easier than seeing a head floating down the hall. That's going to freak me out a little bit more. That's going to take it up a couple of levels.
Yeah, I totally agree. Curtis, what do you think about all that?
Well, I said, it sounds like the Haunted Mansion. The floating head.
Well, yeah. Well, since we're here at the fort, I'll add I throw the little Disney plug in almost every week that for us investigators that get asked all the time, aren't you afraid someone's going to follow you home? I fully place all the blame of that on Disney and the Haunted Mansion, with the whole little at the very end you visit the Haunted Mansion and the hitchhiking ghost follows you home. So whenever I get asked that question, and I'm sure as most of us do, we get asked it a lot.
You know what my answer has become for that, guys? And I do run into a lot of people. My better half likes to tell people from time to time, yeah, he does paranormal investigations, and then they begin to ask questions, and that usually comes up by somebody, aren't you afraid? And my answer, I said, with the price of gas these days, it would be a blessing that I could just stay home and investigate on the weekends.
I like it.
Very good, very good. Well, I want to make sure before we get too late here, I do want to give Mike the opportunity to tell us a little bit about the show he has coming up. this week because it's, or actually I guess it's tomorrow night.
Actually, yeah, George is going to be with you, Matt. And normally on Mondays is Primetime Paranormal. I joined George about a year ago. We used to do Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Now Tuesdays, Nene Grace, who I brought on Wednesdays, which is Kool-Aid, which is my show. But I will be doing tomorrow night solo. I don't know if Riley Black is going to call in. If she has time, Chris Medina may join, but I will be there for the 2 hours. Jason Musgrove, Copperhead from Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which, Matthew, I know you're familiar with, will be on with me. Nate Riddle, who is a North Texas author here, who's written several books about ghosts here in Texas. Richard Contreras, a demonologist. James Anito, another demonologist. So what I've done is I put a big round table together. And one of the things I want to have everybody, and I want to have a serious discussion, not to beat anybody up, but Facebook is one of the main principles we use for communication because of this community, and I don't think the community would be quite the community it is without the value of Facebook. And I think Facebook is a very valuable tool for us to use to communicate in this community. But I think it's being used in a lot of different directions, and I think you can separate and say there are basically paranormal investigators and there are paranormal celebrities. And I noticed that a lot of the people that I've been friends with and communicate with through Facebook over the past few years are more in the paranormal celebrity business than they are in the investigation business. And I think it's time that maybe we begin to separate a little bit of that for those that are out here that are seriously looking at what are the new pieces of equipment to use, scrutinizing and looking at evidence others collected and sharing information and thoughts as we did tonight on your show, Matt, versus posing for a picture with a couple of people in front of a haunted location that you're going to post on Facebook and not give any information on claims or history of the location other than, isn't this a cool picture of somebody from a state next to me that I posed with? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just think that it's gone too far, and I think we need to bring this community back down to the nuts and bolts of what started it, which is investigating and being true to what we're doing.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think the one, I guess, thing that I would add to it, and you put the nice comment in there too, that not that there's anything wrong with it. I guess the other end of this as well are some of the groups that take an almost, I'll call it arrogant position of we're the real investigators and this other things are all sideshows, and they go around and hurl insults, which I think actually makes them look worse. My attitude is, and I've said this a million times, but I'll go ahead and say it again, I love doing this. If I did this solely by myself, I would still do it. If I had, 1,000 people interacting with me doing this, great, I would do it. I started doing this solely by myself, and the only reason why I started sharing it and getting things out there is because I continue to run into people that are interested in it. And so, I share it for that reason. It's not to, it's not for ego. It's not for fame, but it's not, somebody else is running around, doing something that I don't agree with. I personally don't think it directly reflects on me, so I'm not going to stress it.
I agree with that 100% there, Matt, and I'll use my silly example like I've used with Chris so many times is I always like to compare ghost investigating or hunting, I don't like to call it hunting, with fishing. That if I started fishing and was out fishing and had somebody that had been fishing most of their life show me how to string up a lure, show me how to put a worm on a hook, show me the right spots in a certain lake on where to fish, and they'd caught hundreds and thousands of fish over their career as a fisherman, I would probably listen to them. When somebody comes to me and can turn around and say, hey, I've caught 4 or 5 ghosts, I will then listen to them on their techniques on how to do this. Nobody's caught one yet. So whatever I'm doing that you may not agree with, that may be outside the box for you, you should support me just as I will support you in your techniques and what you're trying to do to advance the community.
Yeah, it's learning. And I think back to, I just want a quick add here that Curtis has got to run, and so I just wanted to say thank you very much, Curtis, for calling in. I see you're still on there, so thank you, Curtis.
Yep, no problem.
We will see you tomorrow night, and hopefully we have a very interesting and eventful evening.
Yeah, good luck with Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, Curtis. Join me on Wednesday sometime. Love to have you call into our show on Wednesday with me and Chris.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
but it's I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there when you were saying about the catching the ghosts and the
basically the techniques, and I saw something on that, and I won't call any names out because I never do. Just about everybody on Facebook that is a part of the community are nice people. I think they get a little overzealous at times, but to criticize others of techniques, to criticize others that's the first way you're going to get hurt or this or that. If there's somebody that's blatantly doing something that's disrespectful to property of some place that they're investigating, or a residential investigation where they're jeopardizing privacy or something like that, I think it's okay if somebody calls them out privately and says, hey, you don't post information like that on your client or something like that. But if somebody wants to try an investigation technique or this or that and somebody else wants to call them out, you do it privately. You don't do it on Facebook. You might mention to them that, hey, I think you're taking a big risk there. I've experimented with that. Let me tell you this or tell you that. Maybe you shouldn't go that direction. Or if you do, I wish you the best of luck. Please let me know what you're finding out. Don't publicly scorn them as if to embarrass them to show how much more experience you have versus them on Facebook, which is, I think, what is happening.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think this is what I was going to do. I was going to get kind of William's opinion here with that picture. That picture is interesting, but let's say William was doing this totally on his own, got that picture, just sincerely wanted to find out what people thought about it because he really didn't know, put it out there, and had 10 people going, bug, smear, get your, do some research before you put them out there again, idiot, stuff like that out there. I mean, would you be inclined to do it again, William, if you had to deal with that?
Oh, if you got ridiculed for just throwing it out there, no, I wouldn't do it again, because I don't want to have to sit and listen to folks or read what they, if you're constantly being ridiculed. Me personally, I'm actually wanting to know people's honest opinions, I know it's not a booger on a window. I think that comment was thrown out there, but I think somebody's just joking around with it. But,
I can add, I know that person very well, and he's a big joker, so.
Oh, yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, and I'm not calling that person out either,
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, for somebody like me who's new to this, I hadn't been doing it that long, and somebody in your family gets this photo, and, I know my dad's not going to be throwing anything out like that because it's not anything he does. And to have something come up that, hey, I really want to know, because, there's professionals out there that could probably give you a good answer that I would be happy with. And, but right now I haven't found anything yet, or nobody's come up with anything yet. So it kind of teeter-totters back and forth. But, if you're constantly ridiculed for just trying to find out some information on something, it would prevent me from doing it again,
Right.
That's a great point. I think that James Anito is a great example, and I know you're short on time here, Matt, and I'll make it quick, but he is a young and up-and-coming demonologist that has gotten out there, and, of course, he's going to say a few things that maybe he shouldn't. He's going to get a little overzealous in his comments and talking about what he does. But if we don't have somebody at his age that's out there trying to learn from the ones that are older and doing stuff like that, when those move on and some of them begin to die off or retire or whatever, where's the next generation coming from? And if we ridicule them and laugh at them for their mistakes and they leave the community, then we don't have a future with this.
Exactly, and I've said this before too, but I think there's some missed opportunities here because I think some of the more experienced kind of trailblazers and people that have been doing this for a very long time are losing opportunities in that there's a great opportunity with all the interest in this to be a mentor and be viewed as someone that has helped kind of move this whole field along by working with and helping others, as opposed to, and I'm not saying, I know there's people out there that are doing that, so I don't want to, paint everybody with the same brush, but, as opposed to what I'm seeing with some of these teams where it seems to be much more about ego and, I've done this all before and you got to do it the way that I'm doing and basically just, go home and keep watching TV and let me do my work and kind of stay out of my toy box. And so I think there's a lost opportunity there in that people could get a lot farther along by using their experience to help work with some of the younger, less experienced groups. But yes, we're getting low on time here, so before we run out, I want to make sure, I see you posted the Ghost Cowboys link, but Mike, how can people get in touch with you and let them all know the times for your shows?
You bet, guys. Mike Bowler on Facebook, B-O-L-E-R, Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L. Find me on there. That's where you can find me most, posting stuff. Of course, Paranormal Kool-Aid is the show I have every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern for those of you on the East Coast. Chris Medina joins me on that. It's a little different twist, very much like Matthew's show. And I'm on normally every Monday with George Lopez on Primetime Paranormal, the founder of Dead Air Paranormal Radio. And as I said, I will be hosting tomorrow night by myself with a very interesting show as we take up the concept of Facebook and what's going on with the paranormal community.
William, how about you?
I can be found on Facebook on Automoon Paranormal's site. So if you want to get in touch with me there regarding the photo, any comments, anything like that, because I'm open to all comments. You know, I just take anything that anybody throws at me. So don't get me wrong in not wanting to hear anybody's comments on stuff. But yep, Automoon Paranormal on Facebook.
All right. Well, I would like to thank Mr. Mike Bowler and William Howell for being on with me tonight. Really appreciate it, guys, and I really appreciate you helping me out here as I'm out in the middle of the woods doing this show. And I really want to thank all the Fort Fiends folks that called in, Chris and Curtis and Melissa. Thank you so much, and it was just great talking to everybody tonight. So, again, thank you very much, Mike and William.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome, buddy. Always enjoy being on with you.
It's I always enjoy it as well, and I also want to thank everyone out there for tuning in and closing out your weekend with us tonight. And one last, next week, very neat show. I'm going to have Luana Kurz on. We are going to do a show about basically all things Waverly. She did an investigation in Waverly Hills recently, has evidence and audio to talk about. I have an older investigation from that location that we're going to present things as well. I will kick it out to anyone else that is interested or has anything they would like to share. Contact me at mslozer@yahoo.com and let me know. All right. Well, also, Tuesday, no matter what your affiliation is, don't forget to let your voice be heard and vote. We will see you next week for Waverly Hills. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Matt.
Good night, brother.